Hi class, welcome again to another session on rehabilitation engineering. Now that we are familiar with coordination and what is ataxia, let us go move on to the general principles of coordination training. Now, firstly, if you want to have a coordination training performed on a disabled person, then you have to make sure that the environment where the exercises are to be performed is conducive, right? Suppose you have a person who's having poor coordination, who's not able to, has got issues with standing up and walking, and you use a uneven surface for them to train their walking upon, then that would be madness. It's never going to work. So as a rehabilitation engineer, it's very, very vital to understand exactly what the issue of the person is, exactly what the disability is about, and then develop exercises, and then and the environment where the exercises are going to be performed accordingly, keeping the patient's condition in mind. So first of all, a suitable environment for performing the exercises should be created, and then the possible activities should be enlisted. Then, if a patient has poor coordination, the rehabilitation engineer should break down the exercises into various primary movements and try to strengthen these movements first. For example, if you want to train the person in performing key grip is the grip that is used to hold a pen. So suppose you're trying or finer objects like a straw or a fork or anything like that. So if you want to improve the key grip for the person, and the person's not sane enough to understand exactly what you're trying to say, because they have very poor coordination. They can't figure out exactly where they're going wrong, except for the fact that they understand that they have not performed the activity. That's all they understand. So in that case, you just have to first of all break down the process of picking up a pen into various small subsections. Like I said, first of all, in order to pick up a pen, you need to first of all reach for the pen. So practice, ensure that the patient is practicing the reaching action, and then after that, opening and closing of the hand in key grip fashion, and finally attempting to pick up the pen and holding it. Hold the pen, release it. Again pick up the pen, hold it and release it. So if they practice this movement again and again, then engram forms. And after engram formation occurs, then this activity does not become a big deal for the patient. While training with a new movement, various modes of instruction will be given to the patient. It is very, very difficult. It's too many information that is thrown upon the patient simultaneously. It's like your situation, to be honest. Day in and day out, from 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you're just attending classes on and on and on, hours after hours after hours. So it's just too much information that your brain is trying to process. Now for us, this is gigantic, ginormous amount of information. For someone with coordination disability, even 10 set of instructions given to them simultaneously can confuse them. So you have to make sure that sometimes you use more than one aid to try and communicate your stance accurately. So in those cases or in those scenarios, you have to make sure that you give enough time for the patient to actually process the information. So you have to be very, very slow and precise with your instructions. Also, sometimes you can demonstrate exactly how a particular movement can be done or should be done on the patient, so that would give them kinesthetic feedback. So, however, you have to make sure that before touching a patient, you have to tell them exactly where you are touching them, and then demonstrate the movement. You have to make sure that you are very, very clear with your stance for your own benefit. Tomorrow, nobody should come and sue you saying that a patient was touched inappropriately without their consent. Yeah, so you have to make sure that before touching a patient, you have to inform them where you're going to touch them and what movement you're going to perform. Also, before handling and after handling a patient, it is a very good practice to thoroughly wash your hands. Right? Before touching a patient, you should thoroughly wash your hands, and after touching the patient also, you should thoroughly wash your hands. It's just general clinical practice. Also, like I said, several precise movement should be performed in order to facilitate the engram formation. So this is just an example that I took from your book, from the textbook. So this is walking on footprints and placement of feet, two tasks that a person who has issues with walking is asked to perform often in the clinic. So you have the left and the right foot. The first figure, you have the placement of feet figure. You have the left and the right foot. So you move the left foot forward and right foot forward and stand there, and then you come back, and then you go to the right side and come back, and left side to come back and come back. So this will actually help them practice how to take a step, right? And the next one is walking on the footprints, is actually going to help them assist, take multiple steps together and propel their body forwards. So this is a very good method of helping them how to walk properly, helping them relearning walking. Often you would see that there are support bars on both sides. This happens on stroke patients. So support bar on both sides, so the patient will actually be holding the bar and then practicing how to walk. So this actually gives them the confidence that they can walk, and that would reduce the fear of falling. Right? So complexity of the exercise. These are simple exercises that I have told, right? So complexity can be increased by, first of all, increasing the number of repetitions. So in a given time, if the patient is able to do a particular activity twice, then over a period of time you have to increase the number of repetition in a given time. So that would make things complicated for them. Then increasing the complexity where more muscles are getting involved. So rather than simply stepping one place, so they can just take 2 steps and stand, and then 2 steps backwards and stand, and so on. And then increasing the range of movement during the activity and removing sensory feedback. Initially they'll be getting feedbacks, and then if you remove the feedback, are they still able to do the activity as well as they were able to do with feedback? So once all this is achieved, you can rest assured that engram has been formed, and they can perform these activities without any assistance. However, you have to make sure that on regular basis the patient is practicing these activities, because there are chances that they might forget doing the activity, and then they'll have to start from square one. Lastly, every time a new activity is added, the rate of performance should be slowed down in order to facilitate better learning. Right? Every time there's a new activity, you have to bear in mind that you have to take it slow and steady again. Right? And then as the time progresses, you can increase the complexity, and once the participant has mastered the new activity, you move on to the next activity. You want this to be a learning curve. You want their learning rate to escalate. You don't want them to just learn one activity and do that for the rest of their lives, right? So every time you add a new activity, you have to start from square one for every new activity that you are introducing. You have to take it slow. You have to help them do the activity initially, and after slowly mastering the activity, you have to increase the complexity, and at one point of time the patient would be able to do the activity effortlessly, and that is when you can try and introduce a new activity. Do not introduce multiple activities simultaneously, because the patient would not do justice to the learning rate. I hope you had a fruitful session learning about general principles of coordination training with me. I shall see you again in the next video, where we shall discuss Frankel's exercises. Thank you very much for your time.